On from inshallah we'll continue on from where we left off yesterday. Tafsir of Surah Yusuf, completed more than half of the story. We reached the place where the prisoners left and they forgot to mention Yusuf alayhi salam in the court of the king. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a plan of doing things. What happened? قال الملك, the king who was supposed to hear about Yusuf long ago did not hear about him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him see a dream. He said, I saw إني أرى سبع بقرات. I see 7 cows, 7 fat cows, 7 skinny cows are eating up those fat cows. And I see 7 stalks of corn and another that are fresh and green, and another 7 that are dry. This is a simple dream that he saw. And he asked for someone to interpret the dream. They replied that the people in the court said, this is just adghath ahlam. This is a dream that has got no significance. Now there are 3 types of dreams. One is Ar-Ru'ya Salihah, a righteous, meaning a truthful dream. Something that is actual, something that has an interpretation to it. A second type is Hadith al-Nafs, or something which Hadith al-Nafs is the talk of your nafs. Whatever you've been thinking about all day, whatever's been on your mind, you see that. So obviously if you're thinking about something that's worrying you, then that's what you're going to see. That also does not have any specific interpretation. Can we fill up this gap? It looks really bad here. And third type of dream is what the shaitan puts in our mind. So what the shaitan puts in your mind in order to make you afraid. Like sometimes we get up and we see a dragon chasing us, maybe falling down from a building. People come, they call and they ask interpretation for such dreams. There's no interpretation for that. Simply shaitan is giving you a nightmare to scare you. So if you wake up after seeing a nightmare, say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem 3 times, slightly imitate as if though you're spitting on your left hand side, and go back to sleep. And don't mention the dream to anyone. Inshallah, it won't bother you. It won't harm you. The only one that has an interpretation is the Ru'ya Salihah, the truthful, the righteous dream. So they said this adghath ahlam, this has got no significance to it. And we can't interpret such type of dreams. All of a sudden, that person who was serving the wine there, it just happened to be that day. وَذَّكَرَ بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ أَنَا أُنَبِّئُ. After a long time he remembered, he said, oh, there's a person sitting in the jail who can help you out at this time. So send me. He goes back. So according to some narrations, up to 7 or up to 9 years later, he just ended up rotting in the prison there. He goes back and says, Ayyul Siddiq, oh, the most truthful. He butters him up a little bit. Now, he's obviously scared. Now what's going to happen? I come back after 9 years. Oh, the truthful one. I have an issue here. And he explains to him, this is what the king has seen. If you give the interpretation of this, what's going to happen? لَعَلِّي أَرْجِعُ إِلَى النَّاسِ. I can go back to the people and I'll tell them, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. Then they'll know about you. If you help me out on this one, what's going to happen is that people will come to find out about you. And inshallah, this will become a means of your delivery. This is the means of you getting out of this mess. So Yusuf alayhi salam is obviously quite upset, right? But he doesn't say anything. The Quran doesn't speak about him being upset. He simply says, تَزْرَعُونَ سَبْعَ سِنِينَ دَأْبًا. He says, you need to do a good job of cultivating the crops for 7 years, continuously. فَمَا حَصَدْتُمْ. Whatever you reap from there and you harvest, don't start just using it and throwing it out in the marketplace. Instead, leave it in its cover. This is the way you're going to preserve the crop. So he taught them a method that they were completely unaware of. That this is how you preserve something, is if you leave it inside its covering. إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مَا تَأْكُلُونَ. Except for a little portion that you're going to eat. जितनी ज़रूरत है उतना निकाल ले, बाकी सब छोड़ दे. this is going to happen for 7 years. Then 7 years of drought are going to come, in which you are going to eat whatever you had saved up. Then the 14, and the 15th year. ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مِنْ بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ عَامٌ. A 15th year is going to come. يُغَاثُ النَّاسِ. There will be much rain, and you'll have so much surplus that you can actually even make wine. وَفِيهِ يَعْصِرُونَ. The dream did not have anywhere about the 15th year. It had about 7 fat cows and 7 skinny cows. But that's 7 obviously skinny cows that are eating up the 7 fat cows. They symbolize the 7 years of the drought. The 7 dry crops and plants, they signify the 7 years of drought. And the 7 fresh green crops, they signify the 7 years of rain. The 15th year, how did he come up with that? From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wahi. So we learn from here that if someone comes to ask you something, he doesn't even know how to ask you the proper question. And if you think there's something there that can be a benefit to him, add in a few things. He added it, he's like, I don't know if you're going to get me out of this jail or not, but let me just tell you, go tell the king that he should begin to save up and put the corn inside its covering. Don't take it out. Say that's something extra that was not asked for, that was not even in the dream. But he mentioned that out of care and love for the humanity. When the king heard about this, he said, "I'tuni bihi." He said, I want to see the one who interpreted this dream. Now, after 2 decades maybe, after 2 decades, the prophet comes. Not prophet, the messenger. Ja'a Rasul, the messenger from the king comes and says, the king is inviting you. Come out. At this time, Yusuf alayhi salam says, no, I'm not going to come out. Instead he said, فَاسْأَلْهُ مَا بَالُ النِّسْوَةِ اللَّاتِي قَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنْ. Go ask about the women who ended up cutting their hands. Until my name is not cleared, I am not going to come out of this place. I've stayed here 2 decades, or 15 years, whatever the amount is, and I don't mind staying more. As long as my name is tarnished, I'm not going to leave the jail. Rasulullah ﷺ praised Yusuf alayhi salam. He said, and Yusuf alayhi salam has got a lot of patience. Had I been in his place, and someone would have come to me and said, you are set to go free, لَأَجَبْتُ الدَّاعِ. I would have accepted the invitation of the one who's calling me. See, subhanAllah, this ummah, there's so much ease in here. We understand. Rasulullah said, why did he mention this? So that the ummah realizes that if you are put in through a similar situation, through so much hardship, worry about clarifying your name once you get out. Don't put yourself through untold hardship. And according to some narrations, it's mentioned that had Yusuf alayhi salam not said, oh Allah, I'd rather go to prison than fall prey to these women, Allah would not have put him into the prison. Had he said, oh Allah, give me afiyah and protect me from the prison as well as from these women, Allah would have protected him from both. And that's why Rasulullah has taught us, Salullah al-afiyah. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for well-being. This is the greatest thing. Rasulullah said the greatest gift that you can have from Allah is well-being. You're healthy, your family's healthy, you have a roof to have shelter under. There's no one who's going to be more lucky than you. So he said, all right, let me go investigate. قَالَ مَا خَطْبُكُنْ. He said, what happened to you when you were trying to seduce Yusuf? The king asked the women. All the women happened to be sitting that day in the court. They said, حَاشَ لِلَّهِ مَا عَلِمْنَا عَلَيْهِ مِنْ سُوءٍ. We swear we know Yusuf as a very innocent and pious person. We don't know about any sin, that he ever committed a sin. The wife of the governor spoke up and she said, الْآنَ حَصْحَصَ الْحَقِّ. The truth has now become apparent. Baat khul gayi. Raaz khul gaya. Ana rawattu an nafsi. I am the one, I'm sorry, who seduced him. She owed up. And he's the truthful ones. ذَلِكَ Yusuf says, لِيَعْلَمَ أَنِّي لَمْ أَخُنُ بِالْغَيْبِ. I did this. I didn't leave the jail until my name gets cleared, so that the governor should know that I did not stab him behind his back. I didn't backstab him. I did not do khiyana, injustice, and did something wrong with his family. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ, and so that people should know, لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ, that the plotting of those who have evil intentions will never succeed. At the end of the day, you have WikiLeaks. Huh? It all comes out, right? وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا. The earth will come and take out its burden. बोझ को ज़मीन जो है निकाल देगी क़यामत से पहले. उसके माने क्या है? एक तफसीर ये है. One tafsir is that. One tafsir is that all the secrets will become apparent. The things will start becoming apparent. Today you can't hide. What happens inside the room of a presidential palace comes out by tomorrow, the next day, right? This is the thing. So you can try to lie as much as a president may try to lie and cover up his lies, but sooner or later, the truth will become apparent. Another thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word for the wife of the governor, calls him Imra'atul Aziz. The wife of the governor, the wife of the governor. Keep on using the word. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not say her name. Instead, He chooses to use the wife of the governor. Other places, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Imra'atul Lut, Imra'atul Nuh. The wife of Nuh, the wife of Lut. Very common thing. Wherever you come in the Quran, the wife of Fir'aun, this, that, wife. The name is not mentioned. It's much easier to just say the simple name. But yet, repeatedly, again and again, the wife is mentioned through the husband. The husband's wife. So Fir'aun's wife, Nuh's wife, Lut a.s.'s wife. Some ulama, based on this, have said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is even keeping the name of the women in the Quran as a parda, secret, under veil. The only woman whose name has been mentioned in the Quran is who? Maryam alayhi salam. Aisha also is not mentioned. Maryam alayhi salam. And the only reason why you have to mention Maryam alayhi salam's name is because there's an issue about Isa alayhi salam. That Isa alayhi salam does not have a father, and he is only the son of a mother. Does not have a father. So you cannot, if you don't say Isa ibn Maryam, if you don't say Isa son of Maryam, immediately now you're going to start thinking of a father to link him up to. So in order to clarify this, that no, he has no father, instead he is a son of Maryam, of a lady. And that's it, no father here. The name of Maryam has been mentioned. No other woman's name in the Quran has been mentioned. That's a very interesting thing to think about. That this is the extent the Quran goes in order to not to make women second-class citizens, but instead this to teach us a level of modesty. You know, in our own homes, we've gotten so far from this concept that of course we have homes in which there's absolutely no hijab taking place, where there's open mixing, and that's another. But even homes in which hijab is practiced and men and women sit separately, yet we don't worry about, we openly talk about the women. We talk about my wife and the wife's name and what she likes, when she doesn't like, what she wears, what she's not wearing, and whatnot. These type of open discussions, like we talk about our son and our cousin, we may speak about our wives like that, not realizing that this is actually hijab. This is something that we should veil. If the wife is veiled up, if she's in hijab, then everything related to her, including her name, is something that we should not necessarily bring up in public. And that's why the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in, one of the reasons, Allahu a'lam, possibly, is why they had kunyats. They had mother of so-and-so. You know what I mean? Habiba, for example. Or Roman, they would have names in which they would say the mother of so-and-so. Even the Arabs till today, they use that. The mother of Ahmed, Ahmed, Muhammad, Khalid, instead of the wife's name. Right? You've seen that. You've heard that before, I'm sure. So this is just some, a point that some of these scholars have mentioned with regards to why it's called Imra'atul Aziz instead of her name. Yusuf alayhi salam now comes out into the court, and then he says, okay, it seems apparently that he has clarified his name. So I didn't commit any sin. There she is. She's the one who did it, and she's now acknowledging it. There might be a slight misconception that Yusuf ﷺ thinks of himself as great, even though, of course, mashallah, he didn't do any sin. So in order to again tell everyone that, listen, this is only the fadl of Allah. I'm not saying I'm some very pious person. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي. I don't say that my nafs and my ego and myself is free of sin. Instead, إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. The nafs constantly commands a person and pushes a person to commit sin. إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي, except for those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mercy upon, they are able to change their nafs, control their nafs, and they don't fall prey to their nafs. Subhanallah. Look at the tawadu and the humbleness of Yusuf alayhi salam. You and I, one small thing that we do, it gets to our head. Mawlana Ashraf Thanwi, alhamdulillah, he writes this nice statement. He says, الحائك إذا صلى الركعتين انتظر الوحي. He says in India there's a Pakistan or whatever, in subcontinent there is a class of people who do a very low type of job. It's called Julaha, the ones who to make the thread. It's a very low class type of group of people who do that type of occupation in a caste society. So it says that type of person who's got no education, no recognition of Allah and whatnot, or he has even of a Muslim, very low educated, if he prays 2 rakat salah, he waits for wahi. So alhamdulillah, 2 rakat namaz hogi na, to Jibreel aayega. Thoda sa, anything small they do. Aaj to mashallah I prayed my 20 rakat. I prayed my 5 times day to day. Now definitely whatever I say, Allah is going to listen to me. And this is the sign that a person doesn't understand Allah. The true ulama, the true awliya, as much as they do, even at the level of Yusuf alayhi salam, they're saying, this is all the fadl of Allah. I am not going to say that I make gunah se bacha, that I am great and I saved away from sin. That's why we should never ever look down upon anyone who is involved in sin, in a sin that you and I have been saved from. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to, He could have easily put us in that place. If we've been saved, it's not because we're strong and we're great people, it's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved us from it. 3 types of nafs. One is the nafs al-ammara. This nafs he's talking about. The nafs that always commands you to sin. Next level is nafs al-lawwama in Surah Al-Qiyamah. The Quran, Allah talks about that. Is the nafs that reprimands a person. Constantly says, if you commit a sin, it says, why did you do that? That conscience gets at you. That's a higher level. And the last level in Surah Al-Fajr, nafs al-mutma'inna. The nafs that is completely content with the decisions of Allah, is completely happy without any disobedience of Allah. And that's the highest level that will get Jannah. Udkhuli fi ibadi. Right? Go into Jannah and enter into Allah's pleasure. The king said, I'm going to take him as my personal assistant. And eventually, what happens? He takes him and does not make him a minister of finance. According to some narrations, from a minister of finance, he got promoted to actually the king of the whole area. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفٍ. In this way, we established Yusuf on earth, in Egypt. I'm not going to finish this today either. But I'd like to point to one theme today. Because there's a lot of themes that I have to wrap up. When I just want to finish the whole thing, I want to actually focus on certain themes of Surah Yusuf. There is this one theme here. And that is a theme of وَاللَّهُ غَالِبٌ عَلَىٰ أَمْرِهِ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all powerful over His decisions, and most people have no idea. There is a theme here that Allah has a plan. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be deterred by anyone else's planning. And this plan sometimes is a roundabout. Instead of just doing like this or like this, it will be like this. You understand? It won't be a simple A to B. It will be A to C, then to back to B. However, Allah has a plan that you and I may not understand. And regardless how much we may try to oppose it, this plan is going to happen. There is a narration in Ruh al-Bayan, Tafsir Ruh al-Bayan, under the Tafsir of Surah Yusuf. The words may not be very authentic, but definitely the meaning is authentic. And what are the words? They're beautiful words. This is Ya Abdi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, like I said, this is a very weak riwayah. The meaning is true, definitely, the words may not be. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, oh my servant, Ya Abdi, Anta turid. You have a desire and you have a wish. Wa ana urid, and I have a desire and I have a wish. Okay? In sallamta li fima urid, a'taytuka ma turid. If you submit yourself and hand yourself over to me in that which I want, you become subservient. Rada bil qada. I'm happy with Allah's decision. Jo bhi Allah chahe, main razi hu. If you hand yourself over to me in my decision, a'taytuka ma turid, I will give you at the end of the day whatever you want as well. Aapki chahat bhi main pura kar dunga. Wa in lam tusallim li fima urid, and if you become stubborn and you say, no, I want it my way, and I do not want to submit to you, O Allah, in this decision, I'm unhappy with this decision. Then أَتْعَبْتُكَ فِيمَا تُرِيد, I will tire you in trying to achieve what you want. मैं तुमको थका दूंगा उस चीज़ के हासिल करने की कोशिश में जो तुम चाहते हो. وَلَكِنْ at the end وَلَا يَكُونُ إِلَّا مَا أُرِيد, only that what I want will happen at the end of the day. So सही सलामती का रास्ता क्या है? The way out is that we say, Allah, at the end of the day, whatever you want is going to happen anyway. So I might as well submit myself to you and say, you lead the way. And I'm happy with your decision, but I would also like this and like this, like this, like this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us all of those things, either in the dunya or in the akhirah. So Yusuf alayhi salam's story is all about that. You know, they say from rags to riches. This is crazy. This is from a house of prophethood to the bottom of a pit of a well, to a slave market, to a palace, to being seduced by this lady, to being threatened and to being thrown into jail, and then for another 10 years extra in the jail, and then coming out and back into the palace, and then the finance minister, and then the king. What is all this happening? And the people who brought him into this well, had he not been subhanallah, had he not been put into the well, would the caravan grab him? And had the caravan not bought him, would the king of Egypt or the governor of Egypt bought him? Had he not gone into the governor's house, would he have gotten into the jail? If he had not gone into the jail and saw this dream, and the king saw the dream, and if he had not interpreted it, would he end up as the king of Egypt? And who put him into the well? The brothers. And why did they put him into the well? So that they could get rid of him, so that they could be above him, and that he could be below them. Look at how Allah switched things around. It was their action of putting him into the well with the intention of ridiculing him and making him unimportant and out of the picture, and eventually possibly killing him, that actually led to his ascension to the throne. That's amazing. That's why they say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asbab ke muhtaj nahi hai. Allah is not in need of means. बीमारी के असबाब में अल्लाह सेहत रख सकता है, सेहत के असबाब में अल्लाह बीमारी रख सकता है, हिफाजत के असबाब में अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला किसी की हलाकत रख सकता है, हलाकत के असबाब में अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला किसी की हिफाजत रख सकता है. Did you understand? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can destroy you by using the apparatus of security and protection. And like how a person is carrying around a gun. It happens so many times. A person carries a personal handgun for his protection in countries where they allow it, or in states where they allow it. And the very same handgun goes off and he kills him. Remember in South Africa, we'd see that people carry guns there for protection. And while I was studying there, numerous incidents happens where armed robbers would come in. They'd steal everything in the house. But if they were to find a gun on the person, they would take the very same gun and shoot him and kill him. Had they not found a gun on him, they would not have killed him. Even if he's not using it. If they find it there, they take it, kill him, and then they leave. He got the gun for his protection. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala killed him through that. A person thinks that he's going to get sick. But through his sickness, through that, wherever he is in, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may cure him. Opposite things. So here, they try to destroy Yusuf, and that became the means of his ascension to the throne. So you and I need to realize that let's not get caught up in the means and the conditions of the world, but instead let us realize that the working hands behind all of this belong to Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can work with the means, can work against the means, and can work without the means. And that's what this Quran is talking about. Wallahu ghalibun ala amri. Allah is all powerful over His decisions. Today we recited in Surah Ibrahim. What was that ayah? وَمَكَرُوا مَكَرًا وَمَكَرْنَا مَكَرًا. What was that? وَمَكَرُوا مَكَرًا وَمَكَرْنَا مَكَرًا وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. One place we recited that they plot and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala plots. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here says, وَإِن كَانَ مَكْرُهُمْ لِتَزُولَ مِنْهُ الْجِبَالِ. Even though their plotting is the kuffar, their plotting is so powerful, it could possibly move mountains. That's how powerful it is. Yet, at the end of the day, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is planning is going to happen. This should be something that we should go to bed with every day, thinking. When you get up in the morning, think about this. Jo Allah chahega, wahi hoga. That's it. Ma sha Allah. What does that mean? Jo Allah chahe, wohi hoga. Ma sha Allah kan, wa ma lam yasha lam yakun. Jo Allah nahi chahega, wo nahi hoga. So everything that's happening in this world, وَمَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا, even if a leaf is falling, Allah says, وَمَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ, a leaf cannot fall in your backyard, in your little garden, إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا, except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has full knowledge of it. He's allowing it to happen. And that's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, فَإِنَّ لَوْ تَفْتَهُ عَمَلَ الشَّيْطَانِ, don't ever say once something happens that if, what if, only if. Because the word if, it opens up the door of shaitan. Something happened. Now to say, oh my God, I wish I have done that. I wish I would have done that. Kash ye kar lete, wo kar lete, to ye na hota. Nahi, nahi, nahi. Wo to hokar hi rahega. Wo likha hua tha aapke liye, to wo hokar hi rahega. That's it. If health was written for you, you would have become healthy. If sickness was written for you, then even if you didn't jump into the freezing cold river, you would have most definitely gotten sick. Don't think that I wish I could have not done that and this and that. Because this shaitan playing with you. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written for you is done. Now move on. You know what? This is amazing. This is basically saying don't cry over spilled milk. This is not telling you don't learn from your mistakes. This is saying don't get caught up in something that's happened in the past and say, why did that happen? Why did that happen? Instead, plan and work towards the future. Don't get caught up in the past, in the history. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to instill in our hearts this yaqeen that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does, and that Allah is the ultimate planner, and that whatever is happening in our life is pre-planned from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable all of us to be pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's decision in this dunya and the akhirah. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to, inshaAllah, give us also that what we want. While making us pleased with this decision, give us all of those things in this dunya or in the akhirah that are beneficial for us and that which we are desiring. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.